It was a Monday night, late winter, dry out, but not uncomfortably cold. I was out on pass, going back to Cassite the next day. Peter hadn't shown up at the Red Ox, meaning Mima and I had nowhere to spend the night together. After the Red Ox closed, we went to the Golden Kugel, still hoping that he may show up or something else might fall on us from out of nowhere, but we ended up closing the place. It was a slow night anyway, and everybody else drifted off towards the Munster to disappear into taxis. I didn't want to say goodnight, so Mima and I sat up in the parking garage stairs and made out until we had to descend back to earth to walk around to warm up our feet. The entirety of the downtown was ours at this hour, ours and the Munsters anyway. That ancient church was like a mountain in the center of the city, so gigantic and obvious that I often forgot to look at it. The sidewalks around it were always filled with shoppers and pedestrians when the town was awake, keeping my eyes at a hectic street level. It is odd to think that I could have gotten so used to being around something so magnificent, so heavy with the gravity of its centuries, that I could ignore it in my day-to-day forays into town. That night, with the streets empty and the cathedral lighted from below, even the smallest, highest gargoyle made eye contact with me, and I had no doubt that its steeple really did reach all the way up into heaven. We walked around it, bundled up, talking about not much. I was in my leather biker jacket. She had on her short pea coat and layers of sweaters and a scarf. We were both wearing jeans and neither one of us was wearing a watch. We stepped into the doorwell of a jewelry store to kiss standing up for a long time. We blew on each other's hands and I rubbed hers on my chest inside my jacket. I cupped my palms over her ears and pulled her face into mine. Nobody ever even drove past us. We lingered, kissed some more, and watched the model trains in the hobby shop windows. We crossed streets and smoked cigarettes and held hands. Once we were away from the square, the atmosphere dimmed. Just street lights, nothing to spotlight, and all the apartment windows were dark. I thought you might be leading me back to Carmen's parents' house, where she paid rent for a room. I couldn't spend the night there, but I could kiss her goodnight at the door like normal people did, and then walk back across the bridge to the barracks. I grew to realize that we were just walking ahead, looking for the next alcove we could hide in for a second to warm each other up, each intersection a divining rod to follow without thought. The southern edge of the city is bordered by the Donau River, and there is a castle-like stone wall with giant round cannon turrets spanning its bank. Just this side of it is a long strip of land that has been a jewel of a city park since the beginning of recorded time, with an amphitheater and fountains and playgrounds. We found ourselves at its entryway and roamed forward. We played on the swings and climbed up the monkey bars and made out at the top. We had owned the city first, and now we owned the park. It was all just ours alone together. We sat on a park bench, our legs across my lap, each of us pulling on the other, just yards from the tower where the Tailor of Ulm tried to take flight on the wings he had sown for himself over 100 years before. Kissing, deep kissing, forever kissing, when we heard a rumbling behind us. It had been dead dark when we sat down, and we hadn't spoken above a close whisper for hours. Opening my eyes, I saw that a pale blue morning with amethyst shadows had already started without me. Light was rising, and we both turned to look over the back of the bench. Alpha Battery was shuffling up the sidewalk around one of the grassy rolling mounds behind us, running in formation for morning physical training. Their locomotion caught us by surprise, and we froze on the bench. They were all clad in canary yellow sweats, huffing out breath fog that followed them through the morning damp. Their guidon-bearer made eye contact with us, and we were startled out of our invisibility and laughed at our surprise. He raised the flag above his head, arms straight, and began twirling it, showing off to us. Not an easy thing to do, to lead a formation while running with your arms straight up and twirling a 7-foot staff with a flag on the end of it. The pathway ran just a few feet away from the bench we were on, and they paraded past us, over 200 guys, all dressed the same, all facing forward in step with each other. And we watched them, and we held each other in our coats, and we laughed.